y'all, what's up? What we are going to do today is get ourselves set up to make our scale drawings. What I'm showing you is an example of one that I finished when I was a student, and what I want to point out is that this final product is an enlargement. It's a scale drawing of this piece that I started out with as an example. So what I'm going to be asking for us to do is be using the grid lines for observation, and so the grid will actually help you make something that looks accurate. That's an accurate enlargement. So what we need to do is get ourselves set up to do this. What you should have is your picture that you are going to enlarge. You're going to use this for your scale drawing. I've chosen to do the Queen of Hearts because this is a good amount of information. It's not too easy, it's not too hard, and also this is something that I'm going to be able to draw on. You will need to use some kind of measuring tool. I'm going to use a ruler, but if you do not have a ruler handy, some other options are to use one of these types of tape measures. This one you might find like in a toolbox. This one you might find like if anybody in your house likes to sew. They still have measurements, and so I just want to let you know if you don't have a ruler, you might be able to use one of these. Okay, what we need to do is measure. We need to measure what we got, right? So we have to use our math skills. So for my card, I'm going to measure the length or the width. We have 2.5 inches. So I'll write this here. My card is 2.5 inches by, and the height is 3.5 inches. Okay, what I am going to do is I am going to divide this into a 4x4 grid. And so what that means is I need to divide this into quarters. So 2.5 divided by 4 is, I'm going to have to do that in my head because my phone is doing the filming. So we have 1/2 inch. It's about 0.6 inches. And then for the 3.5 divided by 4, this is going to be about 0.9 inches. Okay, so I've just guesstimated or approximated those, and so what I need to do now is make marks on this card that show this little grid. So what I've done, okay, if it's easier for you to think about it in this way, what you could do would be to say, all right, we have our 2.5 inches. What is the halfway line there? The answer is going to be about 1.25. So I'm going to put a mark at 1.25. If you're using a ruler or actually any type of measuring tool, what you should see is these little tick marks, and so they should be at 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch. I just made a mark at about 1 1.25 because 1.25 is close enough for our purposes. Okay, so what I have now is 1.25. I need to divide this in half, and so it's going to be about 0.7. So here's my 1/2 inch, here's my 3/4 inch. I'm going to make it slightly to the side of the 3/4 mark. If this looks a little bit complicated for you, what you can think about is I've just divided the length in half. Okay, so now I'm cutting my halves in half, and I'm going to go for that 0.7 again. Okay, so what I have made is just these 3 little marks at the top. This is going to tell me where I'm going to need to draw my straight lines. I prefer to actually draw these marks twice. The reason for that is because I want my grid to be level, and I want to make sure that my lines, when I'm connecting these, what I should be able to see is that, okay, my ruler is touching both of these lines, and so now this mark that I'm making for my grid is level. Okay, it's not wonky. That's what I want. Okay, I am going to go ahead and draw this one, and I'm going to draw the last one here. All right, so by the time I finish this, I would like to have 4 lines that are vertical that are equally distanced. Okay, so that looks good. What I want to do now is to divide this, the or the other direction, in half again. So I'm going to keep my same proportions. I'm just going to divide this in half. So half of 3.5 is about 1.7, and so I'm going to put that here, about this mark here. Let's say half of 1.7 is going to be about 0.85, so it's be about here, and I'm going to make the same mark on the other side, around 0.85. Guys, again, if this looks a little bit complicated, what I want for you to think about is, okay, I have divided my height in half, and now I've divided this in half again and again. All right, so let's see. We're going to make our second line so that the measurements can be level. I'm going for 1.75, and let's be about here. Okay, so I'm going to now put my ruler. I want to connect it to both dots. We want these to be level, so all right. Hopefully my marker has some ink flowing. Check. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. Okay, when I finish with this, what I'm going to have is something that is hopefully going to be a useful grid. Okay, so that line didn't quite draw. So if you are, one thing I should say to y'all is that I'm using a Sharpie pen because the card has like a waxy surface, and so if you are drawing with a pencil on this, it might not stay. And if you're drawing with ink that is not waterproof, it might also smudge. So just keep that in mind with whatever type of surface you're using. Okay, so here I have my card. My proportions are marked. The measurements here are about 0.6 inches and 0.9. What I want to do is create the same grid on my final paper. So I need to measure this paper as well. So in my sketchbook, the dimensions of this are 9 inches by 12 inches. So I'm just going to write that down. 9 inches by 12 inches. Okay, so now I have to figure out, all right, well, what proportion, what size do I need to make these marks? When you are doing this, one thing that you might say would be like, well, I can just divide this in half and this in quarters. And while that is true, this is not actually going to give me the same proportion. So what that means is that the length and the height of this are not in the same ratio as the length and the height of this. So what I am going to do is I am going to triple this card. The reason that I'm going to triple it is because this length is 2.5, and so if I triple this length, it will be 7.5 inches. Okay, if I quadruple it, it would 2.5 times 4. That is 10 inches. 10 inches is bigger than the sketchbook, so I'm gonna triple this, and so I just wanted to just remind you of that. When I am going to triple these things, so I'm going to take this 0.6 and I'm going to multiply it by 3, and that's going to give me about 1.8 inches. I'm going to do the same thing for this 0.9 times 3, and that's about 2.7 inches. Okay, so what I need to do here now is to create a proportional grid for this. The length of this needs to be 1.8 inches. So what I'm going to do is to come here with my, I'm going to, again, use a pen so that you can see what I'm drawing, and make a mark where it says 1.8, all right? In this case, will actually move my ruler along the line, so because 1.8 is a little bit weird, a little tricky to find. So anyways, this is what I'm doing. I'm moving my ruler as I'm going, measuring 1.8 and moving again. So I need for this grid to be proportional, so that's why I have 4 spaces. I'm going to draw these lines again with the correct measurement, which is for me 1.8. When you guys are doing this, your grid will probably be a different size, but what I think is a good way to begin is just like, all right, let's divide this in half. Okay, so we're working with this 4x4 grid. We're working with halves, so everything is just sort of following that proportion. Just wanted to remind you, because yours will be different than this. Okay, so I'm coming in here, got this mark, boom. Now what I need is to draw my grid onto this paper. So I have my 2 marks, which will hopefully give me a level grid, and I'm gonna just connect them with a ruler. If you are a person that does not have a ruler, what you can do is you can use anything with a straight edge. So like for example, this is my planner, but I can still use the edge of my planner to draw this line. What you will find is that this is not as big as the whole paper. So if that's the case, I can just move the book. Also, some of you might be using like a shorter ruler, and if that's what you have, that's fine. Just move it along the line so that it stays straight. Okay, what I am about to do is finish these vertical lines, and so my paper will now be set for this. I will just say to you guys that I'm only going to be using 1, 2, 3, and 4. This part is just extra. You might have some extra in your sketchbooks or your papers, and that's okay. All right, so let's see. We have our 0.6 times 3. We had our 1.8 inch measurement. Now what I need to do is I'll flip my sketchbook. I need to be making these marks at 2.7 inches in the other way. So what I want to do is go ahead and I'll place my ruler correctly. And at my 2.7 inches, I'm gonna again approach this 2.75 mark just because I think that is a little bit more realistic. 2.75 just meaning, okay, here's 2 and then there's a 3/4 inch mark. We can sort of think of 3/4 as that 0.75 proportion. Okay, let's try this again. Got my line here. Okay, I need 2 more lines so that I am creating my grid appropriately. And I'm gonna put this here as well. So 2.7. Right, need to do it again so that my lines are level. My grid should have 90-degree angles, so that's why I'm being very particular about this. So again, okay, placing a mark at 2.75. I'll move my ruler, place my mark at 2.75. And okay, we continue. All right. Now I'm going to be able to connect the lines going in the perpendicular direction. And let's see. Again, I would suggest that you all do this with a pencil when you're doing it on your paper. Okay. All right, if you are like me, I move my sketchbook a lot just so that I can make sure my hand doesn't like get in the way of my pen or my pencil. Okay, so what I have now is this grid. This grid is what I'm going to use to draw this here in proportion. Just as a reminder, in this example, this area is extra and this area is extra. So at this point, I'm ready to start.